Hi guys, it's Mrs. Monroe. This week we're going to be working on an alien project for science. So to start us off, this is a book about Mars and some other things in our solar system. The AR number is 167507, and we're going to be doing this on Wednesday, the AR test. So today you'll just listen to the book. Wednesday you'll take the AR test. And then Friday you're going to create your own alien based on the Canvas quiz that you take today. Now the Canvas quiz today isn't really a knowledge test so much as a creative blueprint for the alien that you're going to be building on Friday. Okay, so here we go. Mars. Picture the pink skies, orange sunsets, vast deserts, and massive canyons. You can see these sights and more on Mars. The planet is one of Earth's nearest neighbors in our solar system. But even though it's closer than other planets, Mars is still far away. It takes 9 months to travel there by a spacecraft. Mars meanings: solar system. The collection of planets, their moons, and smaller rocky objects that circle a star. A space vehicle named Spirit took this photograph on the surface of Mars. And then over here it has a picture of the solar system. I'm going to read you the question at the top that I'm going to kind of hide the answer. How do you get a Martian baby to sleep? You rock it. Mars is the 4th planet from the Sun. It's about half the size of Earth. Only the planet Mercury is smaller than Mars. In some ways, Mars is very similar to our planet. Like Earth, Mars is a rocky planet. It has valleys and volcanoes just like Earth does. But there are also a lot of differences. For example, Mars spins more slowly on its axis than Earth does. As a result, a Mars day lasts 37 minutes longer than an Earth day. These differences are part of what makes Mars so interesting. Mars has fascinated sky watchers for thousands of years. It has the meaning down here. Meaning, axis. An imaginary line that a planet rotates on. So the axis usually runs kind of through the middle, and it kind of sits sideways sometimes. Okay, page 10. Blood in the sky. Oh, I went too far. More than 2,000 years ago, ancient Romans noticed a red glowing object in the sky. The planet's color reminded them of blood, so they named the planet Mars after their god of war. The name stuck. Today, the nickname for Mars is the Red Planet. There's a Roman statue of the god of war. And then the question: why couldn't the astronaut book a room on the moon? Because it was full. There we go. Now we're ready for rusty cars. The red planet's rosy color looks like rust. In a way it is. The dusty soil on Mars contains iron. Iron is a metal and the main ingredient in rust. This makes Mars look like a ball of metal left out in the rain. There it shows you a can that's all rusty. And then it tells you here that this photograph was taken by the space vehicle Spirit. Shows rocks in the area of Mars. Our greatest crater. extreme planet. Red-colored Mars looks blazing hot, but it's actually freezing cold. It's farther from the warming sun than Earth is. Plus, its thin atmosphere isn't good at holding in heat. Earth's thick atmosphere holds in the sun's heat like a blanket. But on Mars, most of the sun's heat bounces back into space. And it has a meaning down here, atmosphere. The layers of gases that surround a planet. And then it has our thermometer here, which we just learned the other day. And it's showing you the average temperature. And it's in Fahrenheit. Okay. Deadly breath. Did you know that breathing the air on Mars could kill you? The atmosphere is made up of mostly carbon dioxide. That's the gas we breathe out. Earth's atmosphere is made mostly of nitrogen and oxygen, the gas we need to breathe. Since there's no oxygen on Mars, visitors there would have to wear a spacesuit that supplies oxygen. The outfit you pack for Mars would literally mean life or death. If that doesn't make you want to pass on the ticket to Mars, consider this. Planet-wide dust storms sometimes blanket Mars for months. And then this illustration it's telling us is the dust storm over the Davos crater area. Okay. And then this has a true but weird. Frozen carbon dioxide or dry ice forms frost and falls as snow on Mars. So that's kind of cool. Try to show you without giving you the question. In addition, tornadoes of dust called dust devils often swirl over the surface. They can reach heights of 3,000 feet. Dust devils form all the time. You see the answer? Oh, you can, sorry. Where did the cow astronaut land? On the moon. 5 cool things about Mars. Olympus Mons on Mars. Mount Everest on Earth. So you can see that the mountain is way bigger. Mars is home to the tallest volcano in the solar system. This volcano, called Mount Mons, is 3 times as high as Mount Everest. Number 2. Some scientists think that 3.5 billion years ago, floods on Mars made huge river channels. These channels are visible from space today. This illustration shows how water could have flooded Mars. There's some channels there. Number 3. Mars has a canyon that's over 4 times as deep as the Grand Canyon. It would stretch from New York to San Francisco. Number 4. Mars has 4 seasons. They're much longer than the seasons on Earth. Earth's summer is 94 days. Summer on Mars is 199. And then number 5, I have my finger in the way. Number 5. Mars, along with Mercury, has the lowest surface gravity in the solar system. If you weigh 100 pounds on Earth, you'd only weigh 38 pounds on Mars. And then for our Mars meaning, gravity is an invisible force that pulls objects towards each other. Okay, you get everything? And then this one says here that, oh yeah, I already read that. Okay, moving on. A watery past. Today, liquid water probably can't exist on the surface of Mars. The atmosphere is too thin. The temperature is too cold. All the water on Mars is frozen solid in the North and South Poles or under the ground. But this wasn't always the case. Scientists think water flowed on Mars after the planet formed. There might even have been large oceans and rivers. Why does this matter? Water is necessary for life to exist. If it flowed on Mars, maybe life exists there too. But how can we find out? And then this shows you layers of ice are exposed to a cliff on the north polar region of Mars. And then on the bottom, computer artwork shows what rivers on Mars might have looked like 3.5 billion years ago. So that's what they might have looked like. We're just kind of guessing. Next stop, Mars. The best way to find out if liquid water or life was ever on Mars is to pay the planet a visit. For the past 50 years, scientists have been doing just that, except that spacecraft, not humans, have been making the trip. Check out some major milestones in Mars exploration. So in 1964, Mariner 4, a small space probe, flew past Mars. It took the first photograph of the planet's surface, and that's this up here. In 1975, Viking 1 was the first American spacecraft to land on Mars. It took photos and climate measurements for 7 years, and that's this guy right here. In 1996, Sojourner was the first robotic rover on Mars. In 2004, Spirit and Opportunity are twin rovers that have taken thousands of photos and measured measurements. Spirit shut down in 2010. Opportunity continues to send information back to Earth. And if you remember in this book, so here's Spirit. Remember, they've been saying that some of the photos were taken by Spirit. So they were taken by this rover right here. 2008, Phoenix Mars lander found evidence of snow falling in clouds on Mars. And in 2012, Curiosity began its planned 2-year mission. It's a rover that's like a science lab on wheels. It looks for evidence that life could have existed on Mars. Curiosity's high-tech camera is on its robotic arm. Okay, and then we have meanings down here. So probe is a spacecraft with no one on board. It gathers information in space and sends it back to Earth. Rover, a wheeled vehicle that explores another planet with scientific instruments. Scientists control it from Earth. So that's the difference. Here's the next page. Maybe. I think they're stuck together. Yep. Okay. Earth spacecrafts were made of the best technology available at the time. Still, they were simple compared to what we send to Mars today. Mariner 4 returned only 22 photographs of the surface of Mars. Later, spacecrafts were able to send thousands of photographs. These more advanced spacecrafts were like 2 vehicles in one. Viking 1 had 2 parts, an orbiter and a lander. The lander touched down on Mars. The orbiter stayed in orbit around the planet. Rovers are the most complex Mars explorers yet. They roll over the surface, taking pictures, soil samples, and measurement. And then you can see that this is Curiosity down here, and then this is Mariner 4, and it says orbit is a circular path around a planet, stars, moon, or asteroid. The next part is cruising with Curiosity. Wow, look how big that looks up against people. You see that? It looks so small, or you think it's so small in the pictures, but then when you actually put a person next to it, it looks really big. Okay, so I'm going to kind of leave you the picture of the people there. Curiosity is the largest and most advanced rover sent to Mars. It landed there in August of 2012. The car-sized rover is helping scientists study the red planet in more detail than ever before. Its mission was scheduled to last 23 months, but it will likely be extended. Curiosity's job is to look for water or evidence that water used to be there in the rocks and soil on Mars. It's also looking for habitants where living things could have lived. To do this, Curiosity uses 17 high-tech cameras, a rock-tapping laser, and a nuclear-powered laboratory. Habitat, the area where a living thing makes its home. And then it says here, to keep Earth-born germs from hitching a ride to Mars, technicians and engineers wear special clothing as they work on NASA's Curiosity rover 2010. And the question is, when do astronauts eat their lunch? At launch time. Okay. Let's start here. Engineers on Earth control Curiosity's movements. After Curiosity lands on Mars, members of the control team switch to Maritime time for 3 months. They help them monitor the mission more easily. Weird but true. A simple math mistake could have been the cause of a Mars mission failure in 1999. See, this is why it's important to check your work. The family of one flight director, David O., spent an entire summer on Mars time too. After 3 weeks, their schedule was turned completely upside down. They sometimes went to bed at noon and went bike riding at 3 a.m. Flight director David O.'s son, David, shows a sign on his front door that reads, "Flight director, asleep on Mars time. Come back later." You see that right there? And then down here at the bottom, David O.'s son, Braden, peeks through sealed bedroom windows. The sunlight was blocked so the family could sleep on Mars time. So he had to be awake when the rest of the day was going on. It really got into his work. A long journey. I'll give you the picture of the rocket here. So far, scientists have only sent robots to Mars. But one day, they want to send people. Experts have different ideas on the best way to travel to Mars. But one thing's for sure. These types of missions to Mars would likely take years to complete. The journey itself would take about 9 months. Once there, astronauts would likely have to set up areas to work, live, and grow their own food. To go outside, they would have to put on spacesuits. Talking to people at home would be difficult. Communication signals would take up to 20 minutes to reach Earth. A rocket carrying the Marvin spacecraft blasts off at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, Florida, USA in 2013. Marvin will collect information on the atmosphere of Mars. To meet the challenges, groups of scientists have created Mars mission training grounds. They set up fake space situations so crews can practice surviving on the red planet. Bases are often located in dry, empty areas that look like Mars, like the top of Hawaii volcano or a field in Canada, Arctic. Scientists hope to learn how to make a real-life Mars mission successful. It says here, 2 scientists perform a training mission in Hanksville, Utah in the USA. The question is, how do you organize a space party? You plan it. This is so cute. Since Mars doesn't have supermarkets, astronauts will have to prepare and grow their own food. Scientists are studying what astronauts will eat when they're 150 million miles from Earth. This is Dr. Robert Howard. Checks a vegetable growth experiment. This food would be grown by astronauts far away from Earth. Food brought from Earth will require at least a 3-year shelf life. But the food will also need to be nutritious so Mars travelers don't get sick. And a variety of food will help keep them from getting bored. Astronauts might be able to grow plants like strawberries and tomatoes in a greenhouse. Fresh fruit and veggies would be welcome treats. Pepperoni, please. No pizza delivery on Mars, no problem. Astronauts on Mars may be able to print a pie with a 3D printer. Scientists are working on a device that makes food with ingredients like flavored powder, water, and oil with the push of a button. Your body in space. Before you pack your bags for Mars, you should know that living in space can have some wild effects on the human body. Why? Our bodies are suited for life on Earth. We're used to having the force or gravity constantly tugging on our bones and muscles. Without gravity's strong pull, some body systems start to go haywire. Muscles get weaker, bones can break easily. Fluid builds up on the top of the body, making the face puffy and the legs look shrunken. Headaches and stomach aches result from space sickness, a type of motion sickness. During space travel, the pull of the Earth's gravity gets weaker the further you get from the planet. Until a spacecraft reaches Mars and is under the pull of the planet's gravity, objects float in a state of weightlessness. Fortunately, exercise and a special diet can control some of the effects. This here is astronaut is trying the treadmill so she doesn't float away here. Astronaut Cinta Williams completed a triathlon in space. She ran on a treadmill, cycled on a stationary bike, and swam using a special exercise machine. She did it all while aboard the International Space Station. Greening the red planet. One day, humans might be able to live on Mars, but it would take a lot of time and effort to make the red planet into a place people could live. The process of making a place more Earth-like is called transforming. Here's how humans imagine we might someday be able to turn Mars into a new Earth in 1,000 years with future technology. So here is year 0. The project might begin with a series of missions to set up living quarters. And then in 100 years, humans build factories that could spew powerful greenhouse gases to boost Mars's atmosphere. The greenhouse gas buildup would begin to warm the frozen planet. And we gotta keep going. So that's 100 years. We've got factories going there. In 200 years, rain would fall and water would flow once enough greenhouse gases had been released. Simple microbes and planet life could start growing on rocks. 600 years, microbes would create organic soil and add oxygen to the atmosphere. Humans could introduce flowering plants and evergreen forests to see if they would grow. Oh, you can see it. 1,000 years. Since oxygen levels would remain low, humans on Mars would require oxygen tanks to breathe outside. Energy for cities might come from nuclear power and wind turbines. So you can see that little boy there. Look, he's got an oxygen tank and a wind turbine. And it looks kind of like they've already got the COVID. See? So they got the mask on. Maybe too soon. Okay. What kind of plates do they use in space? Flying saucers. Meet a Martian. Mars has long held a special place in people's imaginations. In books, televisions, and movies, Martians are often shown as little green men. The idea that aliens live on Mars began more than 100 years ago. In the late 1800s, some astronomers claimed to see channels on the surface of Mars through their telescopes. They believed that the channels were canals. They thought that Martians built the canals to transport water to cities. The canals, it turns out, don't exist. But the ideas that Mars might have advanced life forms remain. Today we know that's not the case. It says astronomers down there on Mars meetings. That's scientists who study objects in space. Here, scientists who study objects in space. There's a book by Marcel Lowell. It was published in 1895 about Mars. And a weird but true fact, the 1898 novel War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells was the first story about a Martian invasion. And this up here is from the movie Abbott and Costello Go to Mars in 1953. Okay. It's fun to think about what an imaginary Martian might look like. And it's neat to dream about living on a green, terraformed Mars in the future. But scientists are more interested in knowing if life ever existed on Mars in the past. Many believe there's a strong chance it did. What would this life have looked like? And this is a panel of scientists discussing the latest news about Curiosity in the press conference. Has a little bit more here. So what would it look like? It probably would look like the microbes in the photo below, which is too small to be seen without a microscope. If that was true, then real Martians are just like creatures that are all around us on Earth. A microbe is a simple single-celled creature that is too small to be seen by the naked eye. Weird but true, scientists collect microbes from a lake in Antarctica and put them in Mars-like conditions, and they survive. Be a whiz. See if you guys can figure these out. Ready? I'm going to read them, then you try to figure it out. Mars is the blank planet from the sun. A, second. B, fourth. C, sixth, or D, last. Any ideas? It is B. It's the fourth planet. Number 2. What substance gives Mars its red color? A, carbon. B, sulfur. C, granite. Or D, iron. Any guesses? It would be D, iron. The climate on Mars is blank than Earth's. A, colder. B, hotter. C, very different. Or D, wetter. Should be A, colder. Number 4. Which characteristic does Mars currently not share with Earth? A, seasons. B, volcanoes. C, mountains. Or D, liquid water. Any guesses? You should have guessed D, liquid water, because they have solid water that is frozen. Number 5. Which spacecraft took the first photo of Mars? Do you remember? Was it A, Curiosity, B, Spirit, C, Sojourner, D, Mariner 4? The answer is D, Mariner 4. Number 6. What happens to objects in a state of weightlessness? A, they sink. B, they float. C, they fly. Or D, they move in circles. What do you think? Should be B, they float. And the last one, which is a requirement for any food brought to Mars? A, it's spicy. B, it's colorful. C, it doesn't spoil quickly. Or D, it doesn't need to be prepared. What do you think? Remember, it takes 9 months to get there, so it's going to be C. It doesn't spoil quickly. Okay? So if you ever want to read this book, then it has all of the glossary words that we went over while we were reading it. And then you can take the AR test on Wednesday. It's 167507, and that is also on Canvas. I hope you enjoyed that. Take the quiz on Canvas today, so that you can build your alien on Friday and send me a video. Thanks. I'm missing you. Be safe.